Our friend Adam Silver was
Yes.
on the Dan Patrick Show this week. Dan caught him probably a day too early. If he had got him a day later,
He
might have
still
had
had
this,
some good stuff, but
he
yes,
did, but he
to your
had this Terry
point.
Rozier stuff.
Yes.
Yeah, Dan was asking Adam about changing the game. This has been a popular topic, since really the midseason tournament, when Adam talked extensively about the issues that they
Since
see.
the ratings dropped 30% at the beginning of the season.
Yeah, that too. And when we were I was in Vegas too, and just talking to him and hearing his issues with the game. One thing he brought up was the possibility of changing the game from 4 12-minute quarters to 4 10-minute quarters, which fits in with the uniform FIBA style, college style that exists. And Adam made the point that we're the only basketball league in the world that plays 48 minutes. My instinct reaction is hell no. Not that I don't like the idea, but it changed the game. Like the records become less meaningful. Like you almost have to create a new set of record books for a league before the 40-minute game and the league after or before the 48-minute game and after. Where do you stand on this idea, which Adam will admit is a little pie in the sky, but it does sound like he's interested in it. As Dan pointed out, if you, the commissioner, are into this, then others are going to have to get into it too.
I'm actually someone who, like you, has covered the league for a very long time, decades. So if someone's going to be a traditionalist, it would be us. It sounds like you are taking that position. We heard several coaches take that position in the last day or two since he said it. I have to say, from my perspective, even after being a traditionalist in some ways, I think it's an idea worth discussing because I do think we know for a fact attention spans have gotten shorter. Viewer habits for how kids today, quote unquote, consume. And by the way, it's not just kids. I have adult friends in an advanced age, let's say, who watch television shows by checking their social media feed and watching it in 3-minute increments on TikTok. And then they watch the next 3 minutes later in the afternoon, and then they're across their feed, the algorithm sees they've watched the first 6 minutes, so then it'll feed them the next one. And these are people in their 40s. I mean, think about what people in their teens and 20s are doing. If you don't face that reality, the other sport you have covered for such a long time is not as popular as it used to be, and you could possibly end up in a similar boat. It will take a while, but I think that guys like Tom Thibodeau and Michael Malone, who were the most visible, sort of saying, that's a dumb idea, I hope we don't do it. Michael Malone went so far as to say, I hope we don't become Barnum and Bailey's, to please people, which, by the way, I appreciate that he thinks that most people out there will get that reference. I'm not sure anyone under 25 will.
Hey, we all saw The Greatest Showman.
Well, there you go. Barnum and Bailey, a circus, first of all, that was, of course, doing anything to attract people. That's what he was saying. Michael Malone makes $12 million a year. And if you want those big TV contracts to continue, instead of this one that they just got being the last big payout they ever get, you better prove over the course of that contract that you can retain viewers. And they have to think that way. And as for the record books, I would just leave with this. At the beginning of the NBA era, just like the NHL, there were 6 teams and guys were doing, working at different jobs while they still play. I mean, this game has changed.
You're right.
The 3-point line has changed and made records mean different things than they used to. There are eras in a sport that has been fortunate enough, a league that's been fortunate enough to be around for 75, 76 years. There will be changes that make records before and after, and sort of we just have to make that point. Oh, that was before this. Wilt was before this, XXY before this. If we have to say that another time for another set of records, I don't think it's going to be so different than what we say now.
You've done a great job in the show of talking me into things here. And you're kind of talking me into that as well. I do Adam's thing was we like that 2-hour sweet spot, right? For game length. I would start with starting a 7:30 game on time. That's a big thing. You say you're going to start a game at 7:30. There's not a single game that starts before 7:38. So let's just whittle that 8 minutes down.
And let's talk about the fourth quarter where 2 minutes to go is often 20 minutes to go.
Yeah. I in other words, I think there are ways to get the game down to an optimal length without touching the 12-minute quarters. I would start with them, I guess, first. I think they're,
That's fair.
I think the 3-point line is something that somehow, some way needs to be addressed, whether it's a simple fix like allowing more physicality on the perimeter. I actually did Andrew Yang's podcast of all people recently, and Andrew Yang had this idea he pitched me on: threes counting for 2.6. It's his big thing. He was dead serious about it. He's like, let's count threes.
I don't find that hard to believe, considering some of his other ways he's solving problems.
He had some thoughts. It was an interesting conversation. But I'd start with the 3-point line. I'd start with like just changing the game a little bit. I'd start with getting a 7:30 start because games, look, you know, like games. I always figured out game starts at 7:30. It's probably over at 10:50. That's kind of the way it's been. You take that 8 minutes off, like you're talking 10:40 is still 2 hours, 10 minutes.
But you know why they don't start till 7:38?
Commercials, yeah, it's all.
It's the television contract. Yeah. And by the way, you have just had 3 television partners spend an incredible amount of money to still have those 8 minutes at the front of every game. So I guarantee you that's not changing.
All right, well, 10-minute quarters it is then. That's what we've got to settle.
I'm not saying that's the best solution. I'm just saying that I understand why we've gotten here. And that, again, as you say, start times would definitely improve things, you know, if they actually started on time. You can't do that. That option is actually off the table. Yeah. So you just have to narrow it down to the options that are on the table still, and that may be one of them.
All right, well, Adam Silver, if you're listening, we are sort of getting on board.